How you holding on to all those muscles? Mainly just steroids?
No.
Nsima?
Dog.
Hey.
Yeah, is it steroids?
So my last marathon was 2:56:27, 2 hours, 56 minutes, 27 seconds. And now I'm going for a sub 250. It's Buffalo, New York, end of May, which we're going to have to hold about a 6:20 minute per mile pace. I look back at my first marathon and it was a struggle bus. I remember stopping at mile 17, full body cramp up.
Oh.
And this cop walked up to me and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Son, why are you doing this?"
One would assume you're burning a lot of calories, so you're probably eating a lot, but are you eating that much each day to try to maintain your body weight?
So we just recorded a video this past week. We posted on YouTube. It was a full day of eating. And that was about 3,600 calories.
So 2 different kinds of nut butters.
So I came in at mile 62 and they said, "What do you need?" I said, "Nut butter." And in my head, I'm thinking squirrel's nut butter for chafing. So my wife hands me this packet of almond butter, pulled like the waistband of my pants out to look down. And you could tell something was like dried there and like pulled apart. And there was a pool of blood.
Oh.
There's a pool of blood in my pants.
What is some of this for? Because you are putting yourself in compromising positions. You're somebody that's into fitness, and you must recognize that a lot of these things that you have done and maybe may continue to do, they're just not healthy.
With each new challenge I select, I know I have to sacrifice more, but I also know that it provides this new level of confidence. So when I finish it, it's, well, fuck, now what's next?
What is this doing for your brain?
A lot.
Why are you the most hated man in running?
I won't say I'm the most hated guy in running.
We had a conversation earlier, but for some reason, runners don't like you.
I think it's because
You don't look like a skinny bitch.
Oh!
Take that.
yeah, I mean, I think
PowerProject family, how's it going? Now, we partnered with an amazing brand, Bubs Naturals. We actually have some of the products on the table. Their MCT oil powder, their collagen protein, and this their apple cider vinegar gummies, okay? One thing I want to let you guys know real quick is that the Bubs products, number one, they mix super well. So I've had different MCT oils, and I've talked to people who've used MCT oil and mentioned to the copy, and it doesn't mix well. Well, their MCT oil is amazing on coffee in the morning just on its own, but their collagen protein, and collagen is great for joint health, hair, skin, nails, all that stuff, that also mixes just so well into coffee and everything. That's one of the crazy things. But secondly, these freaking apple cider vinegar gummies, I don't ever supplement apple cider vinegar, but they put them in gummies, which is great. 2 per serving. We have literally eaten one of these full things. Andrew and I have split this. And Mark has to be so careful. Like, we give him 2 and we take it away because it tastes so good, but it's actually really good for you. So Andrew, tell them how to get it.
Yes, guys, seriously, have just the recommended dosage. Just have 2 of those gummies. Don't have 2 full bottles the way we do. Head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. And what's really cool about Bubs Naturals is they actually donate 10% of all their profits to various charities, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. Again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code PowerProject to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
God damn, you went how far with 30 to 50 pounds?
100 miles.
No,
From Austin to Houston.
Why?
Well, we raised money for Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a damn good reason. There you go.
There's a good reason. And that was coming like right off of my time in the military. So it was something that was familiar, like just throwing a ruck on and just logging some miles. And that quickly transitioned to dropping the ruck and then running faster.
Yeah, we have some of the guys in here, they follow some programming from a guy named Josh Bryant. And Josh Bryant is a fan of powerlifting. And he works with a lot of people in powerlifting and the strength community, but he also is a big fan of conditioning. He's got like some kind of different ways, unconventional ways to condition people. But one of the things he'll have lifters do is just like, walk with a weight vest or sometimes just walk with some weight. And some of our crew is following his programming. And they went out the other day and they just were walking with like 30 pounds And it's just the instruction is like just to pick up 30 pounds of anything. It could be, it doesn't have to be 30 pounds, anywhere between 35 and like 45 pounds. So it could be a plate, it could be a dumbbell. You could put it in a backpack, you could just carry it whatever way you want. And there was probably 5 or 6 guys that went on this walk, and they walked about a mile. They came back and they were shot. I mean, they're not used to any sort of like conditioning stuff, but it's an interesting thing when you propose something to somebody and say, hey, kind of do this whatever way you'd like. The point is it's probably going to start to suck, but I can't imagine going, could you imagine that 100 miles with like 30 pounds on your back? That's insane.
It made me think, because we just took a walk around the building the other day, and it was a suggestion from Ryan, but he put a weight vest on and some chains. Okay, so I was just like, let me just put a chain on. We just took a walk around the building, came back, my traps were like, oof, this is nice.
20 pounds.
Yeah, and I mean, it forced me to keep upright, but I imagine doing that for 100 fucking miles. Like,
Well, it's all about your setup. Like if you have something that's pretty much attached to your back and tight, those Go Ruck backpacks that like Go Ruck makes, I mean, those are clutch. They're not moving. They're not jumbled around. It's like in the military when people would get in trouble for the way they pack their ruck. So say, for example, you're told, hey, we're going on a 20-mile ruck tomorrow morning. You have to have 50 pounds in your ruck. Pack it the way you want to pack it. And if you throw just a bunch of bricks or books and stuff in there and you're getting a little shuffle, that stuff's moving around, it's bouncing up and down. But if you pack it real tight and close to your back, that's high up on your shoulders, it's going to feel comfortable. You're going to move smooth.
I would say pack it whatever way you want, and then I'd make each person take someone else's ruck.
Did you ever hear the term soup sandwich?
I have not.
Yeah, so we used to, like, our instructors or our my boss, my commander, he'd pick up someone's ruck, and you'd see, socks falling out of it. You'd see like books just flopping all over the place, and say your ruck's a soup sandwich. I love that phrase because it's like, if you imagine 2 pieces of bread trying to hold, a can of soup together,
yeah,
it's not going to work out.
Bro, there's nothing worse than a soggy sandwich, right?
yeah, I don't even want to think about it. It's
Gross.
It's gross.
I was on, I was sitting on the plane getting ready to come over here today, and I got this craving for like this artisan bread deli sandwich. So I was searching for like the best artisan bread that you could find for a deli sandwich. It's a craving I've had recently.
How recently?
Past 2 weeks.
Have you thought about why?
Does this have to do with the baby?
You know what? It
Because
might.
you guys are pregnant?
Yeah.
I've heard about the woman's cravings transferring over to
like
the
it's
male.
sympathy pain disorder, sympathy weight, sympathy cravings. Yeah, all that stuff.
I mean, he had that.
No, I didn't have it. Well, did I?
Didn't you say you had sympathy pain?
You did.
No, I have sympathy pains. Yeah, that I experience once a
Well,
month.
of course.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I'm embarrassed by that. Thanks for bringing that one back
You
up.
just care about her a lot. That's the
Yeah, anytime my wife's period comes around, like 5 to 10 days ahead of time, I'll start getting headaches. I'll start feeling weird. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on. My head's killing me. I can't fucking see. And she'll look at her tracker and be like, yeah, well, about to start my period in like 6 days.
Yeah,
Like,
we got to
holy
hear it.
shit.
Andrew's like, I feel bloated. I don't know if I get through this podcast
Like
today.
my boobs are all sensitive. I don't know what the fuck's going on, guys. I need a Midol and a Snickers.
Well, my wife's been, she's had aversions to meat. So like whenever I'm prepping like ground beef or like making a steak, she feels sick.
Oh,
That's been like the hardest thing to get through, the meat aversions.
Yeah, that's bad. Bad news.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to keep all this weight on? Because you are still jacked and you're running really far. You said you ran 100 miles maybe just a couple weeks back.
Early February, so it was about 8 weeks ago.
How you holding on to all those muscles? Mainly just steroids?
No.
Nsima?
dog.
Hey.
Yeah, is it
You been
steroids?
I think part of it is it's one, genetics. Like if I look at, so if you ever saw my dad, I'll show you a picture of my dad then. My dad has the worst diet in the world. When we go to dinner, he eats pretty much off the kids' menu. It's like chicken fingers, French fries, or like a burger. No vegetables, no fruit, no nothing. And he doesn't really lift weights anymore, but he does body pump. He's really into body pump.
Is that like a beach body thing?
It's like instructional fitness, and you're not using heavy weights or anything. My dad is ripped, still ripped. Me and my brother just have always been bigger dudes. I want to. So like funny story. Last year I did a marathon, and It was during an Ironman prep. I was in an Ironman prep, did a marathon in between there, and I stopped lifting weights for about 6 months in preparation for this, and got down to about 192 pounds because I wanted to lose size and strength.
That's still massive, by the way.
And I lost a significant amount of muscle and size. And I finished the marathon. I ran sub 3. But what I found through that journey and that process is when I eliminated strength training, I felt like absolute crap when I was just doing endurance training. And it wasn't until I started introducing and incorporating strength training again back into my routine that I started feeling better. So like some of the things I started noticing, and I talked to Sal DiStefano from Mind Pump about this when he was at BPN.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed after like 4 to 5 months of no strength training and just a lot of zone 2 aerobic cardiovascular training, is that my metabolism started slowing down. So I started gaining some weight. I noticed I started holding weight around like my hips and my stomach. I was talking to my videographer. So I was like, do you guys think I'm looking just like different? Like, I thought I would get like, really lean and skinny, but I feel like I'm getting just like bottom heavy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell my metabolism started changing. I started feeling very tired and fatigued and weak. And then when I started slowly incorporating strength training again, I started feeling better.
How about your joints, by the way? I'm curious. Were you feeling any weird joint pains too when you stopped strength training, or no?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing with my joints. I never really had any joint issue.
Okay.
This is like like, why do you think that happened?
Honestly,
Did your videographer say you're nuts, or where they were like, yeah, you look a little softer?
They were like, yeah, you look a little softer. I think it was just eliminating strength training. I mean, before endurance training, I was 230 pounds powerlifting and bodybuilding, right? Like
You came down almost 40 pounds.
I lost a lot of weight and I wasn't incorporating. Back then, I hated cardio. Cardio for me was like the last thing I wanted to do. Me and my brother would crush 2 workouts a day. After that last workout, we'd go to In-N-Out. We'd crush 2 double doubles, animal style, 2 orders of fries, animal style. And then we go to sleep and do the same thing the next day.
This protocol sounds pretty good.
And it was
familiar.
It was just build in size and strength. And then when I transitioned to endurance training, obviously I cleaned some things up and started losing some weight. But I've always been able to hold on to more size and strength, even through this endurance training. Now, one thing I do notice is that when I start incorporating some more speed workouts, like if it's just zone 2 easy running for an ultramarathon, it doesn't really affect my weight. But when I start incorporating some speed workouts, some tempo workouts, go to the track and I do some faster pace stuff, that's when I start losing some more weight. And then for me to go into this next marathon, like right now I'm sitting 200 pounds pretty even in the morning. I'd like to ideally get down to 194, 195 in the next 8 weeks. For me to lose that last 5 pounds, it's actually a pretty big push for me because my body just wants to sit at this weight.
Does the track, you mentioned the track taking off some weight, does that take off good weight or is that still just chipping away at muscle?
A little bit of both. Yeah, a little bit of both. Like I will pull back. I'm doing strength training right now 3 times a week and I'm not doing anything crazy. That last month before the marathon, I'll probably pull out all strength training just to, because I'm not going for this marathon just for a completion, right? I'm going for a time. I want to run a sub 250 marathon. So my last marathon was 2:56:27, 2 hours, 56 minutes, 27 seconds. And now I'm going for a sub 250. It's Buffalo, New York, end of May, which we're going to have to hold about a 6:20 minute per mile pace.
And for somebody, so people can have perspective, because a lot of people listening might not be like avid runners. For a guy that's in your weight class or your weight, what are good times?
I mean, they say endurance is invisible, right? Like you can look at someone and you can't tell what kind of endurance they have. For my weight, I mean, it can range. Like my first marathon ever was 3 hours, 57 minutes. And that was about 225 pounds. My second marathon, 4 hours, 15 minutes. I got worse. I got 18 minutes worse. And then I slowly started incorporating some actual principles of endurance training, lost some weight, but I went from 415 to 324 and then 324 to 256. And now I'm trying to go from 256 to 248, 249. But dude, I mean, 2 minutes when you get down to that low, it's 2 minutes is a big jump.
And that pacing per mile is like what for that goal you have right now?
About a 6 minute, 20-second minute per mile pace.
Wouldn't you say, like, just in general, like, regardless of how far someone's running, obviously it matters how their history of running, but somebody that's maybe newer, if you're getting, even just under like a 10-minute mile, you're not doing so bad.
No, I'd agree. I mean, I look back at my first marathon and it was a struggle bus. I remember stopping at mile 17, full body cramp up.
Oh.
And this cop walked up to me and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Son, why are you doing this?" Because I had my traps were huge. And I was like, I wanted to run a marathon. And he just looked at me and shook his head. He's like, you're not cut for this. Get out of here.
He said you're not cut for this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Goddamn.
And I'd say, a marathon back then for me was impossible. I thought it was the biggest thing in the world. And then I saw some people that were finishing marathons and I said, hold on, that guy ran a marathon? I can do that. I want to challenge myself. And since that moment, it's been, what's the next challenge? What's the next challenge? What's the next challenge? And it's how far can I push it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. It's one, a personal goal that I'm trying to accomplish. But two, we have this online community that's following the journey and they're learning through the process as we're learning through the process. So it's been very rewarding, not so that we just get to accomplish our goals, but we get to watch people and guide people through their goals as well.
That's cool and all. But the only reason why you're on the show today is because you had Matthew McConaughey on your show, and we think that he's handsome, and so that's why we brought you on here.
I knew that would do me wonders.
What was it? What was the experience like, and how did that whole thing happen?
With Matthew McConaughey?
Mm-hmm.
So my executive assistant at the time, Wyatt, I messaged him one day. I Slacked him, and I said, what do we have to do to get Matthew McConaughey on the podcast? And he said, I'll email him. And I was like, okay, whatever. I thought he's just bullshitting me.
Yeah.
30 minutes later, I get a calendar invite pop up in the right corner of my desktop that says podcast with Matthew McConaughey. And I just yelled over to Wyatt because his office was like right next to mine. I said, hey, you sent a calendar invite for the wrong person. I just assumed he made a mistake.
Yeah.
He goes, no, that's for Matthew McConaughey. I said, what do you mean it's for Matthew McConaughey? He said, well, I was previously going to work for Matthew McConaughey, so I have his contact. So I emailed him and connected it. That was one of the most nervous times of my life. I had to.
Yeah, because now you got to fucking interview him.
Mm-hmm. I had to pump myself up I was in the business park of BPN doing circles around the business park, just trying to bring my heart rate down because I was so nervous for this conversation.
Oh, that's sick.
That's awesome.
That's a hell of a coincidence though, that guy was about to work for him though. That's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
What's his history with fitness? Do you have any idea? Do you get a chance to ask him whether he whether he lifts a lot or whether he runs or?
Dude looks jacked.
He stays in great shape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, have you guys read his book?
I've not.
Mm-hmm. So, in his book, he talks about he was over in Australia. It was like a exchange program over there, and when he was there, he was running like 6 miles a day. And he was on this extreme diet where he was eating essentially like 0 calories and like some lettuce, and he was running and he lost all this weight. And I don't know what he does now in terms of fitness. Like he's in Austin. I'm right outside of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really ever see him around, but I'm sure he's staying active. He looks pretty fit. He is very involved with Austin FC, which is the soccer team in Austin now that's sponsored by Yeti, which is an epic stadium in Austin.
That's awesome. That you brought that up, actually. That made me wonder, you doing all of these miles every single day, getting ready for this ultra, what do your calories look like, dude? Because, I mean, one would assume you're burning a lot of calories, so you're probably eating a lot, but are you eating that much each day to try to maintain your body weight?
So we just recorded a video this past week. We posted on YouTube. It was a full day of eating, and that was about 3,600 calories. One thing that I think is misunderstood in terms of endurance training, like we were talking about earlier, about 80% of my training is aerobic. It's these very easy, slow miles. And then 20% of my training is the speed workout. So every Wednesday, I either have a threshold workout, a tempo workout, or a track workout. They rotate. And on these days where I'm just running slow and easy, I'm really not burning that many calories. And the misconception is that we all, as runners, wear these Garmin watches that tell us how many calories we burn from these events. And they're fairly inaccurate. Right? Like, I'm not burning 2,000 calories from a nice, easy run. As well as, after talking with Sal, the body tries to become more efficient in terms of training. It is going to slow your metabolism down with cardiovascular training. And I can tell when I was just strength training as opposed to now doing a lot of running, my metabolism was a lot healthier when I was strength training a lot as opposed to where it is now. I could eat a lot more food then as opposed to right now.
Let me ask you a question though. When you say your metabolism was healthier, yeah, your metabolism is slower now, but does a faster metabolism, do you think that means it's healthier? Because there could be an argument for if you're fit and your metabolism isn't as fast and you don't need to eat as much food overall to maintain your body, that might actually be a healthier thing than having to have such a fast metabolism that you have to scarf down a lot of food to maintain that physique.
Especially from an evolutionary standpoint. That makes a ton of sense.
From that too. But like, you know, like everyone's like, especially within fitness, within the physique and bodybuilding community, everyone's aiming for a faster metabolism. But having to scarf down so much food, what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a difference between maybe saying faster and flexible
okay.
metabolism. So if your metabolism, regardless if it's fast or slow, if it's flexible, is it adaptive to what you're consuming and how you're training?
Yeah.
And does it change with flexibility with that stimulus that you're providing to it? If not, I would say that is an unhealthy metabolism. If it is, I would say that is a fairly accurate, healthy metabolism.
Yeah. Actually, okay, I'm curious about this too, on the metabolism. But do you think that, because there's different ways that people look at like metabolic flexibility, like for you, because you've done so many different types of training, I'd assume that like you tracked your calories that day and it was 3,600, but I'd assume that if you were eating like 4,000 or a little bit more in terms of calories, your body you'd have more movement during the day. Like you would adapt to that. Like, have you ever tried that to see what happens if you eat more calories? Because I doubt you just gain a bunch of weight. What do you think about that from your experience?
So I really don't track calories at all. I mean, I literally for that video just tracked so I could show what we were eating. I have found that with more endurance training, I'm actually not hungrier. Like I rarely ever am hungry when I eat. I eat meals because I know I need nutrition and fuel.
Did it start that way? Like when you first started running more, did you notice that you were hungrier, or has it been the same the whole time?
When I first started running, I mean, it's been a while now, but I do remember being hungrier. Like, I would go into meals like starving, ready to eat.
Because that's one of the warning things that people have. Like, I really hate when people deter people from any exercise, because any exercise is like, to me, it's a positive. Like, it's great. However, what they'll point out with running is that, like, in the beginning, you may not be able to match the amount of running that you're going to be able to do with how much exponentially hungrier you're going to be. So if you're running to try to lose weight, it's just probably something just to think about, just to know, just be conscious of.
Yeah, I mean, one way I get a lot of calories in is through fat. I love higher fat diets.
I was going to ask you.
So eggs, nut butters, lots of red meat. We actually
cholesterol question. We're going to have to ask a cholesterol question. You ever get any blood work done?
Yeah, I get blood work done. Cholesterol's fine.
Everything looks good.
Yeah.
You're about to say something about nut butters, though.
Yeah. So in Leadville, Colorado, we were at Leadville in August for that 100-mile ultra rail trace. My wife, I came in at like mile 62, and the crew was there at every checkpoint, and they asked, like, what do you want? What do you need? And I came in, and we had these little packs of nut butter with the crew kits, but I also had this chafe cream called Squirrel's nut butter. So I came in to the
Wait,
checkpoint.
wait. Chafe cream. So you have to put that on the inside of your thighs?
Exactly.
All right.
So 2 different kinds of nut butters.
So I came in at mile 62 and they said, what do you need? I said, nut butter. And in my head, I'm thinking squirrel's nut butter for chafing. So my wife hands me this packet of almond butter. And it's in the video. It's in the Leadville doc that we produced. And I said, no, like other nut butter. So I just take this big scoop of squirrel's nut butter and I just throw it down my pants.
Wait, you did use that and throw it down your pants? Wait, the squirrel's nut butter.
Squirrel's nut butter is made for chafing.
So that one's for chafing.
It's for chafing.
Okay.
The other is made for consumption.
All right, so okay, good. I for a second I thought you actually
you
took
got the right one in the right spot.
I got the right one in the right spot.
This brings us. I think this is a great, quick story time for you to talk to us about your short incident.
Yeah,
the incident with your shorts, because, what's the brand? Silkies.
Silkies.
So Silkies gave you an issue once, right?
Yeah. So I've always been running. Short shorts are just like, there's nothing better than going out for a run wearing nothing but short shorts.
Yeah.
No shirt. You got like a hat on, and you feel light and free.
You get whistled at all?
Oh yeah.
I figured.
Oh yeah.
Good looking guy.
Yeah, those legs are unbelievable.
They're shaved. They're clean and shaved.
Aerodynamic.
But I used to always wear Silkies, especially coming out of the Army. Like you wear Silkies in the Army for like morning PT, and I would sleep in Silkies and I would run in Silkies. And this is when I was running like 3, 4, 5 miles a day. And this one day I went down to, it's called Lady Bird Lake in Austin, Texas. It goes around the Colorado River downtown. It's beautiful. It's a 10-mile loop.
Yeah.
So it was a summer day. It might have been like July. And I went for this 10-mile loop. And towards the end of that 10-mile loop, I felt like this uncomfortable sensation in my pants. And I finished the run, and I could just feel like something just was wrong. So I pulled like the waistband of my pants out to look down, and you could tell something was like dried there and like pulled apart. And there was a pool of blood.
Oh.
There's a pool of blood in my pants. And the Silkies did me wrong. Something was wrong with they weren't silky. And I had to wear a Band-Aid.
Where did you wear the Band-Aid, Nick?
On the tip of you know what?
Of your penis.
I did.
God damn it.
For weeks. And that was the last day I wore Silkies on a run.
Were you just running too fast?
I honestly had no clue what happened.
I don't know what happened.
The thing is, I've never talked to anyone else that has ever experienced this. It might have just been like a fluke accident.
Were you running with a boner?
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
I think I'm like, yeah. Where did you have that?
He's running with some full wood out there. I wonder why he's getting honked at. That makes more sense.
Not that I recall.
Got like blood dripping down his leg.
God, that's a real runner's high though. Just to be running like, this is kind of uncomfortable, but your dick's bleeding.
Did it stick to the Silkies?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when you pulled it down, is that what caused like the
No,
the tear? Oh, I can't put it nicely.
There's already blood. It was
Okay,
there's a lot of blood in. I mean, that's the thing with running. There's lots of blood. There's blood, sweat, and tears.
I mean, we did see your feet. Your feet are gnarly right now, brother.
This is probably like one of the. I actually felt bad because this is one of the worst times my feet have ever looked this way. And of course, within an hour of being here, my socks off and it's being filmed. But last night, before
Graham is very forward. He won't even like buy you dinner or anything.
No.
He just gets his hands right in there.
he was squeezing the pus out of my toe.
I was surprised. Like, is he really gonna do that? Like, is he gonna continue? And he just kept squeezing it.
It was very uncomfortable.
he was probably into it. That's the thing.
Graham is very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, last night before going to bed, this toenail's been hanging on forever, and so I just like held it down and I tried to rip it off and it wouldn't come off. So then I went and cut it off with scissors. So part of the toenail was still in there, part was off, and I mean, I'll even admit like that it's disgusting. My toes have been gross, but that's like the worst it's ever been.
Yeah. I feel like such a pussy because I feel like if that happened to me, I wouldn't be running.
You'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
We have this really
He's got
cool,
11 miles to run later today.
We have this really cool scene in the dock for Leadville where the guys had it on camera. I come in to a checkpoint And I take my shoe off, and toenail was hanging off. And I just counted to 3, 1, 2, 3, and I just held it and I ripped it off. And I threw the toenail on the ground, put my shoe back on, and kept going.
This is some Goggins type shit right here.
What's this documentary you're talking about?
It's called Leadville 100, More Than the Miles. So it's the 100-mile race we did in Leadville, Colorado this August. And it was epic. It's 100 miles in the Rocky Mountains. It starts at about 10,000 feet of elevation.
Wow.
Gets to, I want to say, like close to 14,000 feet of elevation. We had the BPN team out there, and it was wild. The scenery was just insane.
I'd be down with eating those burgers. I don't know about the running part.
So I felt,
yeah.
Is this the toe? Oh no.
That was the one request I had for my brother. I said, when I come into mile 62, because it's after climbing what's called Hope Pass, which is a big uphill climb and a downhill climb, I said, I just have a burger ready. So they said he was struggling to get the burgers made while I was gone and get the charcoal lit. So when I came in to grab my burger, it tasted like pure charcoal. So I was afraid. I was like, holy shit, I'm poisoned. My brother poisoned this burger with charcoal. But that was an epic experience.
Is it safe to assume that, or maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that you're probably the biggest guy out there doing this 100-miler, or did you see other guys that were like you?
No, I was told by multiple people out there that my biceps don't belong on a course like that.
Okay, so dude, what because you started, I mean, I'm guessing you're running in the military and you ran as an athlete. Then when I started seeing you on YouTube, it was you in the at the time you were in the military and you were doing a lot of lifting. You were fucking yoked. Then you switched to running. What made you want to do ultras? Because it's like, cool. All right, you want to do some marathons, some 13s, some 26s, dope. You want to run hundreds? Why?
It was like this evolution where it was my first marathon, got a little itch, and I wasn't very happy with that first marathon time. So I wanted to challenge myself again. I did worse because I didn't know how to train. And then I actually trained and did decent. And I said, okay, what's next? Let's sign up for an Ironman. So I signed up and trained for an Ironman. And then after that, it was another marathon and another triathlon. And then what happened was the last couple of years, I've been putting my name in the lottery system for Leadville, Colorado. So the way Leadville, Colorado Ultra works is that you can put your name in the lottery. And if your lottery ticket is pulled, you get to run it that year. The couple years before this past year, my name was just never pulled. So midway during this triathlon prep we were in, I get this email that said you were selected to run Leadville, Colorado. And it's one of those races that if you're selected, you got to do it. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Wow.
So went into a training block for that. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And I think the hardest part about Leadville was the elevation. You know, training in Texas is one thing, but then running 100 miles in the Rocky Mountains above 10,000 feet of elevation, completely different ballpark.
Seems very, very dangerous.
It is.
If you're not used to it.
I mean, I had a lot of trouble breathing. Once we got back from Hope Pass the second time, which is a big effort, it's a big climb. It's about mile 62. I started wheezing. So my breath sounded like, and I just could not get a deep breath. And the last 38 miles was like that.
Wow.
And even like the 2 to 3 nights after that race was finished, I couldn't sleep because I couldn't get a deep breath. It took some time. Really, when we got back to Texas is when I could breathe again.
Wow.
But I had trouble breathing at that altitude.
It's scary because you're like, under normal circumstances, like if you sprinted or something like that, you're like, oh, I just need to wait and then there'll be, I'll be fine. But in that case, the air is like, for lack of a better term, it's thin. And when you get compromised like that, you're like, am I going to be able to take another breath? Did you get to that point where you're like, I'm not sure if I should keep running?
Yeah, we got to this one point because you could have pacers. So after certain mile marker, after mile 62, someone could tag in and run alongside you on your team. So Adam Klink, who is our director of sponsorships and partnerships at BPN, he tagged in and paced me for about 25 miles. And then Michaela Utter tagged in and paced me for like the last 12. And I got to a point with Michaela in that last 12 where I had to take a seat on the ground and I could not get a breath. I mean, it was to the point where I felt like I was breathing through a straw.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I was on the verge of my lungs just like seizing up and stopping. That was the hardest part about Leadville. But I mean, if you look at the scenery, it was, I couldn't believe it when I was doing it.
What is some of this for? Because you are putting yourself in compromising positions. You're somebody that's into fitness, and you must recognize that a lot of these things that you have done and maybe may continue to do, they're just not healthy. Like what, what possesses you to continue onward and continue to do them?
That's the thing is, like, you have to realize and identify that by no means is a 100-mile race building fitness, building health. If anything, it's doing the opposite. But for me, it's why we've taglined "Go One More." That's why it's tattooed on my arm. Like, "Go One More" is constantly, how far can we push it? What are the limits? And not necessarily from just a physical perspective, but mentally. Like, I interviewed Courtney DeWalter, who is one of the most impressive ultra runners in the world. She's a female ultra runner. And she talks about this pain cave and why she does ultras. And she says with each race she does, her goal is just to dig out her pain cave a little deeper, a little bigger. Because every time you dig out that pain cave a little further, you learn something about yourself. The amount of things I've learned about myself during a race like Leadville were absolutely amazing. But we titled the video "More Than the Miles" because what people see is me just in the mountains running 100 miles. But there were 17 members of BPN that were there for the course of that trip. And people don't see the crew that goes from checkpoint to checkpoint, the cameramen that are climbing the mountains with me. I mean, I got to the highest point at Hope Pass. And coming back over, and I saw Jordan Utter and Tyler McCain, who are two of our videographers, at the top. I said, "How did you guys get up here?" They said, we climbed 3,000 feet and 3 miles to get to the top for this shot. So everyone had a role, and that brought our team together so much tighter. So, I mean, it was emotional. It was an emotional event for everyone, but it is showing people, the people that follow the brand and our content and the mission of what is possible. Because nothing, like Matthew McConaughey says, nothing is unbelievable.
I think it's really fucking cool because when, like, for example, you squatted 1,000 or you failed with 1,081, right?
Failed with 1,085.
Failed with 1,085. But you took powerlifting to a certain spot and then you kind of transitioned into doing things more for health. But I think that no matter the individual that's starting, like if an individual's starting to run, maybe them running 5 miles isn't healthy, but if they push themselves to get there and it was quite hard and maybe they had some little pains here and there, the journey to be able to get to being able to do that, they learned a lot about themselves doing that. The same with you with this. Having the ability to run 100 miles, you probably learned a lot that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. But I wonder, you're about to do this other 100-mile marathon or ultra marathon, and then you mentioned that you're going to transition out of that. Why specifically are you transitioning out?
So I did out of ultra marathons.
Yeah, because you said you're going to do one more, right?
Yeah, so I had Leadville 100, which was this past August. That was a 100-miler. And then I wanted some redemption from that one for a better time. So I did Rocky Raccoon, which was in Texas. This past February. Did that one in 19 hours, 13 minutes. And then I knew the baby was coming in July. So I sat my wife down and I said, can I train for one more marathon and we document this journey before this baby girl gets here in July? Because it's a big undertaking. It's not just a training, but we document the whole thing. We make a series out of it. She said, yeah. So we found one. It was Buffalo, New York Marathon, end of May, which gives us about a 5-week buffer before the baby's supposed to get here.
Yeah.
And for that one, it was, I wanted to run sub 250. Now, sub 3, when I first started running marathons, was unbelievable. Like, it was impossible to me. And then I ran the sub 3. So now it's, well, what's next? And I think you guys can relate to this, where I don't want to hang my hat on things that I've done in the past. And Jesse Itzler says this all the time. He says he never talks about the companies he's sold or things he's done in the past, the books he's written. He talks about what he's doing this year and what he's doing in the future. And I really related to that, because I don't want to hang my hat on anything I've done in the past, but only what I'm doing now and in the future. And in order for me to be proud of the things I'm doing now or in the future, it's got to be more challenging. And that's like Tim Grover's book, Winning. He talks about with each other win you go to accomplish, there's going to be more sacrifice involved, but it's going to provide more confidence. So with each new challenge I select, I know I have to sacrifice more, but I also know that it provides this new level of confidence. So when I finish it, it's, well, fuck, now what's next?
You do a pretty damn good job of, like, you know, there's, it's really easy to get trapped in like instant gratification, you know, of like eating this or doing that and developing some like shitty habits. But what I'm recognizing from you, all these different things that you say and all these different things that you're doing in building your own company and doing all these things, they're all things that, and we were talking about it a lot outside. We were talking about how long it takes to like build some of these capacities. You know, it may not take that long for somebody who was previously fit to start to run and to build like some level of endurance, but to build the kind of endurance that you're building, you know, I think that I wish people would gravitate, and it's not an easy sell, but I wish they would gravitate more towards the things that take longer. You know, in strength training or in bodybuilding, it takes a long time to build muscle. And even with a training session, there's something called delayed onset muscle soreness. Most people are familiar with that. Well, that's the repair of the body, and that's where the quote unquote the gains are happening. But most people don't want to take the time. They don't have that time over the course of 5 years to build their shoulders, build their arms, build their chest. They want the instant gratification. But it seems like in your case, you're more on board with delayed onset gratification,
100%,
rather than just going for that instant.
Yeah, I mean, this year marks our 10th year in business for BPN. And I remember when I started the brand in 2012 out of my college apartment, I told my dad, I said, I'm going to make $1 million this year. And he said, if it were that easy, everyone would do it. I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that first year, we did 20,000 in revenue. Year 2, we did 20,000 in revenue. Year 3, we did 20,000 in revenue. I said, shit, this is far from $1 million. But everything I've applied to BPN is the same thing I apply to business and family. I'm in it for the long term, the long game.
The other thing too about like when it comes to business, people, they'll say things like that or they'll have a goal like that, and those are all always amazing. But what I would say is, like, especially to people that are newer to business, dude, what is wrong with following your dream and making $20,000? Like, $20,000 is a nice amount of money. Now, if you're trying to like live on just that and support a family, then you might have to have it increase year by year. But I have many friends that have these crazy successful businesses, but I have other friends that will come to me and they're like, man, it's just not working. You know, I only make like 60 or 80K a year. I'm like, yeah, but you're one of the happier dudes I know. So like, it seems like it's going great. I do understand, like, you might want to have, depending on where you live and depending on if there's any other income in the household. But I don't see anything wrong with having a business or starting something or having an invention or getting a product out there. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with making an amount of money that wouldn't necessarily be associated with I guess, this real stable career-like atmosphere, which it's cool, but when you're chasing something that you really love, you don't have the rest of that setup to deal with. You're doing things on your terms, your way.
Yeah. And when I said $1 million, what I thought $1 million was back then was what I wanted. It was my tag, my visualization of what I was really trying to build. And what I learned over those 10 years was I wanted to build an impactful business with people that I'm responsible for and building teams. And I think the military experience really refined that for me. Like being a platoon leader in the Army and the infantry and being able to lead people and be responsible for people and be a part of their life. I learned through that of, okay, this is what I want to get out of business. But when I got started, I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I wanted to build something. And the first attachment that I could identify was what sounds like an accomplishment. 7 figures, $1 million. So I've learned over the course of time of what's important, what's impactful, what's really meaningful. And just like anything else in your life, that evolves and transitions over time as you grow.
And what about someone working for you that is able to pull up in a new vehicle? It's like those things feel amazing. The actual amount of money that the company generates revenue-wise, that's all great and stuff. But what about the impact you're having? And then what about the impact that you have on your thousands upon thousands of fans? You have really like an amazing fan following. I see like you make a post and there's so much interaction on those posts. Like people love you. When I tell someone that you're coming, they're all fired up. Like people are like, can I run with him and stuff? And I'm like, if you can keep up, maybe you can try to run with him. I don't know.
We have a ton of Discord questions actually too.
Oh, that's sick.
For Nick.
Yeah. Your fans are fanatical. It's pretty cool. You definitely are accomplishing what you set out to do.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my team a few weeks ago about this. And it was, building a marketing initiative to raise the top line and increase revenue. And talking to the brand director, it was talking back and forth and negotiating on which way to take the campaign, the marketing budget based off of what was going to be more profitable. And sometimes people on the team don't see what's affected from increasing revenue in a business. Because when I see increase in revenue, I see I can hire more employees. I can pay the employees who are working their ass off more. We can give bonuses. And I don't just look at an employee as an employee. It's you have a wife and 3 kids.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, you might have 27, 30 employees, but you're responsible for 110 to 130 people. And
responsible for their Thanksgiving, their Christmas.
Yep.
All that shit.
So the way you grow that business, everyone thinks as a business owner, you're putting that money in your back pocket. Now, that's going to take care of the people who are working their ass off for you.
I was really curious because when you guys were talking about like transitioning, you going from lifting to running, I'm assuming that there were a lot of initial hurdles that you were dealing with, maybe as far as your body, your back. I don't know if you were dealing with any type of pain, but what allowed you to stay consistent with it? Because the constant through line with what we're talking about here with you being in business for 10 years, there are probably multiple times where you're like, fuck it, this is just, I could do something else. But you dealt with that hurdle at the time and you are where you are now. So with running specifically, because it's becoming a very popular thing, well, not very popular, but I'm seeing a lot of more people that are bodybuilders and bigger individuals that are wanting to take up running. What type of hurdles did you deal with at the beginning that people may not know that they may be coming across? And how did you deal with those? Pain, discomfort, whatever those are, because those things make people stop trying to get better at running.
Well, I remember when we used to run in the military, like we didn't have these fancy Garmin watches. We wore G-Shock watches.
I remember those.
So I can't tell you at what pace we ran, how far we ran. Yeah. We'd come back and our commander would say, how far are you running today? We'd say 6 miles. I don't know if it was 6 miles. I was just throwing numbers out there.
Yeah.
So then when I first started training for my first marathon, I wore the same watch. And to this day, I don't know how many miles I logged for that first marathon prep or at what pace. I'd go out and say, I'm running 5 miles today. But it was just like a number I threw out there. I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it was finding out that I had to have a plan first. I didn't have a plan for my first marathon, which just led to what was a soup sandwich. It was all over the place. It was me at mile 17 where this cop is patting me on the shoulder saying, you fucked up.
Yeah.
So building a
You're
plan.
like, yeah, you're right, bro.
Yeah, building a plan was the first thing, but realizing that you got to go into it really slow. So if I look back at my endurance training over the last 4 or 5 years, it didn't go from 5 miles a week of running to 70 miles a week of running in that first year. It took 4 or 5 years to slowly ramp up that volume. So it's really easy to look at someone at where they're at in their running career or sport right now, or anything in fitness. And like I said earlier, comparison is the thief of joy. You look at someone else who's taking a picture of their watch and posted on Instagram, and they did 10 miles at 6 a.m. this morning at an 8 minute per mile pace. And you're thinking, I suck. I can't even do 2 miles at an 11 minute pace. But everyone's at a different point in that journey. You have to run the mile you're in, right? So for me, it was realizing that you have to slowly build volume over time. And when I say time, I said 4 to 5 years at this point, where now 70 miles a week is pretty comfortable for me. That's manageable. But if I would have done that year one, 100%, I would have been injured. I would have been burnt out. Would have been overtrained. I probably would have stopped running altogether because I would have said, there's nothing here for me.
Dog.
I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah, dude. We were just talking earlier today about how like there's this video we watched, but this woman was continuing to say, oh, 95% of diets fail, 95% of diets fail. She was using that as a reasoning for like why people shouldn't be going on diets or people shouldn't be doing that. But one of the reasons why so many diets fail is because people do exactly what you're talking about initially, is they take this thing up and they try to lose this amount of weight in this amount of time, not doing something that's sustainable for them for any period of time. So they go too hard. Maybe let's say they do lose 30 pounds, but they did it in a way that was just very difficult. They can't maintain it. They gain all the weight back. They think the diet didn't work and they quit. It's the same idea with your running. If they try to take up a 50 or 30 or 20 mile per week volume and they haven't done that before, they might last a week. They might last 2 weeks, but by week 3, their body's broken down. They're like, running isn't for me. And with all this fitness stuff that we're talking about, there's so many people that are promoting, 12-week diets or 12-week transformations, and that's drilled into people's heads, but that's not how long those types of transformations take, especially if somebody's starting out and they're overweight or obese. That shit could take multiple years. But you got to be okay with it taking multiple years. Like when you mentioned this volume took 5 years for you to build up. Somebody hears that, they're like, what the fuck? But that could be the same thing for the body. And if we want to be able to accomplish what we want to do in the fitness space and helping people, got to drill into them that this is something that's going to take years, not weeks.
I think as an adult, like you try something new, you're probably going to get hurt. I don't, I'm not trying to be negative and I'm not trying just to stick that in your head, but when you're a child and you do something and you're doing it with your friends or your parents take you to soccer practice or something like that, you already have a basis of like playing, like you're already running around, like you're a little kid. Like when you're 7, 8, 10 years old, a lot of kids, at least when I was growing up, we ran around a lot. So we had a lot of experience. Somebody who's about to go and try running, they may not run for the last 20 years. You know, maybe they weren't in the military. Maybe they didn't play football or soccer or basketball. And maybe even when they were young, they didn't run much. And then now you're going out and you're expecting so much of yourself. And the way that I like to look at it is, look, man, any amount of running that you started is, double and triple the amount that you've done probably in your whole life. The amount of running that I've done, just because, and I'm somebody that had some sports in the background, but like I never ran very far. I mean, I think I even ran track and did the 100-meter and stuff like that. And I recall, I think we ran like 2 miles would be like the most that I would be required to run. When I was boxing, I had a coach. He was like, you should be able to run 2 miles pretty proficiently. So I'd go out and I would do 1.5 miles, 2 miles here and there. but I don't really remember running very far. So as soon as I started running, that's when I hit you up with a message. Like, you're most likely going to end up with a lot of lower body injuries, knees, hips, feet. The key is to keep them really minimal and just have low expectations of yourself.
Well, I saw you guys made a post the other day. It was recently about microdosing fitness.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a diet or training, like endurance training that way, say I'm going to transition from what my diet is right now to a new, healthier diet, or I'm going to transition from no fitness, being sedentary, to incorporating fitness. You can microdose these activities into your life to make small changes, which over time compound to make this big impact.
Yeah.
So like diet, for example, instead of going from your crappy diet now to full-blown, restricted, no cheat meals, like hardcore, where your chances of lasting on that are very slim, just make some small changes. Eliminate some things that aren't the healthiest options and incorporate some things that are healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for like endurance. If you're going from the couch doing nothing to fitness, start walking. Do some of your 10-minute walks, and then do some of the run jogs we talked about, where it's, okay, maybe I'm going to jog for 10 minutes, then walk for 5 minutes, then jog for 10 minutes, and then walk for 5 minutes. You can even promote active recovery through like cycling or swimming, like cross training. Cross training is one of those things that anyone can do. Like, you don't have to, just to be a runner doesn't mean you have to run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. It can be run Monday, Wednesday, Friday, might be a mile or two, and then add some strength training in there, maybe some cycling to promote recovery, some swimming just to move around. Just make these small changes to your life where you slowly add it in, and over time, increase the volume of that activity to get better at it.
Let's switch gears for a second. And since we're kind of on this topic, I guess it's not really switching gears. Let's talk about the Maffetone method that you were mentioning. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It was created by a doctor who has a lot of experience with running. He's written I think 30 books on the topic of running, and he talks a lot about, I think you're training at like 80% most of the time, but I'm not really 100% sure. Maybe you can explain it better to us.
Yeah, so Maffetone method, this is a formula that I had a coach that had me incorporate to get faster. And the goal is to build your aerobic foundation, your aerobic base, by running below your max aerobic heart rate. So if you think of your max aerobic heart rate, it is a ceiling. And if you stay below that ceiling, you are building your aerobic systems. So the formula is you take, it's called MAF 180, MAF, 180 minus your age. So example, if you're a 30-year-old male, 180 minus 30 equals 150. That is 150 beats per minute. That 150 beats per minute is your max aerobic heart rate. Not your max heart rate, your max aerobic heart rate. So that means when you go do your easy, slow base building miles, your heart rate should be below 150 beats per minute.
Mm.
And like we talked about earlier, I really don't recommend monitoring your heart rate through your watch because it's fairly inaccurate.
Oh.
So the best way to do it is if you get and I wear all Garmin stuff, but if you get like a Garmin chest strap heart rate monitor, goes around your chest, and the sensor goes on the center of your chest, and it syncs via Bluetooth to your watch, you can then watch your heart rate in an accurate way, real time. So about 80% of your runs should be aerobic, base building, below your max aerobic heart rate. And then about 20% of your training will be spent at a higher effort, higher heart rate, faster paces. Maybe you're doing some track intervals, you're doing some tempo workouts. That's like your refining speed work. 80-20 principle. So if I'm out on my Monday morning easy run and the goal is for it to be easy and aerobic, what I would do is I'd sync my Bluetooth heart rate monitor to my watch. I would put the setting, and I'd have my route already pre-planned.
Mm-hmm.
I put my watch on a setting where I don't see my pace, I don't see distance, and all I see is heart rate. and I'm running, and every 2, 3, 4 minutes, I'll just glance at my watch, make sure it's in that range, it's below my max aerobic heart rate, and I'll finish that run strong. So what it does is you're running slower to actually get faster. But think of your aerobic base as its foundation. And if you apply it to like building a house, you don't want to build a house on top of just dirt. You want to build a house on top of foundation. That foundation is 80% of your training. It's this aerobic base building. And the houses you put on top of the foundation are the tempo workouts, the track workouts, the speed workouts. That has been the biggest way I've improved my speed and my endurance, because there's this gray area. There's this gray area between, and it's what's considered, a lot of people are messing this up, where they're running their easy runs too hard and they're running their hard runs too easy. So if you find yourself in the middle there, where you're in between those two thresholds, where you're not running easy enough, you're not running hard enough, most people are doing endurance in that zone right there, which provides very little benefit to either. It's a dangerous spot to find yourself. And I've been there for a year and I got no faster, I'll tell you that much.
That makes a lot of sense, because if your easy runs, if they're not easy enough, you're not actually getting recovery from those runs. Like, those runs are building up volume, but they also have a secondary aspect of allowing you to recover from your hard runs, right?
That, and it's teaching your body how to use oxygen efficiently as a fuel source. Because what happens, we did this really cool testing in Austin a few weeks ago. It was at this facility called Run Lab, and we were testing lactate threshold. So if I'm going and doing an easy run at a run below my max aerobic heart rate, my body is utilizing oxygen very efficiently. That is the aerobic system. It's just what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
And the more aerobic base building easy runs you do, the stronger that system gets, the more efficient it gets. Endurance is all efficiencies, right? Building efficiencies. As you increase that effort and your paces get faster, what happens is your body isn't able to utilize oxygen as efficiently, and it starts building lactate in the blood. So lactic acid starts increasing. There's this threshold that you want to find, and we wanted to find for our next marathon, where we wanted to find at what pace, what is the fastest pace I can run where my body is accumulating and building lactate in the blood, but it's clearing it efficiently. Once you cross that line where your body can't efficiently clear lactate out of the blood and it keeps building and building and building, you're just you get tired.
Yeah.
You can't run as fast. So you want to find that pace of what's the fastest I can run for a prolonged period of time where my body is efficiently clearing blood lactate.
What was
This
that
is a
pace
lot
for you? Sorry, I'm just curious.
Like 6:15, 6:20,
Whew. Shit.
which was really good information for us, is because that's the pace we need to use for this next marathon. And the reason the pace was there is because of all the slow, easy runs I've done the last couple of years. When you look at these 2 ultramarathons I just ran, these 200-mile races, all that training was all aerobic base building.
Yeah.
There was like no speed work in there. So it was like I had this engine I've built from just all the miles.
Yeah.
You know, when we had Chris Henshaw here, he was talking a lot about this. He mentioned it just like I think he likes apps and he likes the ability to track because it keeps you more honest, but also, you know, he was just kind of referring to, look, if you can talk while you're running and have, you know, speak full sentences, then you're probably in about the right zone. Does that sound correct?
Yeah. If you can hold a conversation with paragraphs pretty comfortably, you're probably in your zone 2 training. Now, I personally don't wear and I get this question all the time, I don't wear my chest strap monitor anymore because I know what that feels like. I know what efforts feel like at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't have to wear it all the time anymore. If I really wanted to, just to double check, I could. But I recommend in the beginning, it's a good decision.
Is it maybe a little bit like, I don't know if you've experimented with nasal breathing, but is it a little bit like that? Like if you can breathe in and out of the nose comfortably, you're probably in the right spot? Or would it be just a little bit harder than that even?
It'd be a little bit harder than that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say breathing in your nose, out your mouth, comfortably, but you don't want to go too slow. You don't want to go too fast. It's just finding that sweet spot.
PowerProject fam, this episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot Shoes. We've been wearing these shoes for almost a year now. They're flexible. They have a wide toe box. They allow your feet to get connected to the ground, and they will make your feet stronger, and they don't look like shit like a lot of these other barefoot shoes. Andrew, how can they get them?
You guys got to head over to vivobarefoot.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to this video.
What does your breathing look like when you're running at a decent pace? Because like, I'm assuming you're not exclusively nasal breathing.
No, to be honest, I have no rhyme or rhythm for the way I'm breathing. I just let it happen on its own.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the same way with your running too, right? You haven't really I'm sure you studied it a little bit, but like you aren't super meticulous with it. You just happen to run a lot better now than you did in the beginning, probably a lot through trial and error.
Yeah, I think there's definitely cues that you can look out for and keep in mind and be conscious of in terms of running or breathing. What I've kind of applied is that I think my body will become a more efficient machine the longer I do something.
Yeah.
And it just finds its rhyme or rhythm on its own. I've tried to self-correct certain things, and when I self-correct one thing, then I'm trying to address another thing. And I found that if you look at my run form now compared to 3 years ago, it's night and day, just because my body's become more efficient.
And along with that, since we're kind of talking form here, as far as the way your feet strike the ground when you run, there's a lot of different parties especially when it comes to different types of marathons. Ultra marathons, they seem to be more okay with a heel to I don't know, what's the
like a
ball
roll
of the foot?
rock,
Yeah, a roll. And then other like 26s or 13s, they're like more on the ball of your foot, depending on your pace. Do you fall on any end of that spectrum, or did you just let your body fall into it? What do you think?
Yeah, I just let my body fall into it. I think it's one of those things that everyone has a different opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this really cool run coach come out to our facility about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Her Instagram is RunRx. And she has some really good instructional stuff for run forms and efficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked with us a lot in terms of improving your run form. But one of the things she said that I'll never forget is you should never think of your running as a strike. And you hear of heel strike, forefront strike.
Yeah.
And she said, if you're striking something, it's a quick jab. So she kind of refers to it as, she shows you how to run in place, kind of on the balls of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then to move forward, you just lean into it. And when you lean into it, your body will naturally, through gravity, move a certain direction. So she said when she ran her first marathon, at the end of it, her legs weren't even tired because she wasn't striking. She was pulling. She pulls her leg up with almost her hamstring and her glute. She was pulling and falling.
Doesn't WEC talk about that?
Yeah, and you're just springy, right? Like the ankle and the foot of the human body is an amazing thing, and it's like a spring. And if you're running in the way that you're referencing, you get to take advantage of that. You're just trying to be kind of light on your feet, and you don't have to. I've noticed for myself personally, like I don't have to concentrate on a whole lot. I mean, I could be in the middle of a run and I could say, oh, it'd probably be good if we just tilt forward a little bit. Like I can feel certain things now. I might notice, you're not really moving your knees hardly at all. Like bring those up a bit. I can notice some of that stuff, but as I've been running more, it seems to just be naturally getting a little bit better. And keep in mind too, we're mainly talking about like jogging and running. Sprinting is a completely different animal, in my opinion.
Well, I heard someone explain it the other day as if you want to run faster, move quicker, don't move harder. So what happens when you try to run harder is you're going to overstride, you're going to strike, you're going to overstretch. But if you want to move quicker, just move your feet faster. Because I used to always say it's a lot more complicated than just telling someone to run faster. But if you think about it, if you just move your feet a little quicker rather than trying to run harder, it makes sense.
what you were pointing out about the style of training that you utilize, where you're running slow to run faster. Again, when we had Chris Henshaw on the show, he talked about Jason Khalipa. And Jason Khalipa is just an absolute monster athlete in just about anything that the guy does. And he just was able to run pretty fast, but he just wasn't able to, he couldn't figure out how to sustain that speed. And Chris Henshaw asked him, he's like, well, I don't know, like, how long does it take you to do like a 400 or something like that? And Jason's like, I don't know, like 40, one lap around the track, sorry. Jason's like, I don't know, like 45 seconds or something. And his whole point was like, speed was not an issue for Jason Khalipa. It was being able to hold on to it and maintain it. So you can think about anybody that possesses the ability to run, they could certainly run faster if it's in a shorter, if it's a shorter distance. So then trying to figure out, how do I run pretty fast, even half that speed for a long distance? Well, we're going to have to have something that we can progress over time that is not going to be devastating to recover from. And it ends up being a lot of the same things that we end up finding out in the gym. You know, if you want to, so many times people ask me about getting a stronger bench. And when they're pretty vague about it, I can't really help them identify exactly what the issue may be. But more often than not, the answer is to reduce the weight. And what should I do to increase my squat? What should I do to increase my deadlift? The answer is the same for all three of those lifts. Decrease the weight, get the repetitions, and do them correctly. Do 5 sets of 5 and do all 5 sets and all 5 reps. All 25 reps should look very similar. It really shouldn't be broken. They shouldn't be, it shouldn't look like crap. And if you think about your running, if you're trying to increase your running, well, if we run at a nice, good, smooth clip and there's no decline, you're not starting out at a 6-minute mile pace and then all of a sudden tanking and just crumbling and turning into a soup sandwich, then you're probably going about doing it the right way.
Yeah, because you're working two different systems there. You're working the aerobic system, cardiovascular system, and the muscular system. One's going to give out. You know, if say, for example, you're doing a 400 and you're all out sprint and you can't hold that, your cardiovascular system, your aerobic system isn't efficient enough to hold that. Same goes the other way, possibly. So it's finding that combination of building muscular endurance as well as aerobic cardiovascular endurance.
What is this doing for your brain?
A lot.
Because there's a runner's high, right?
That's what they say. I mean, it took me years to feel like this high. So
Wow.
I made a post on Instagram today, actually, talking about solitude, because everyone that tries running after they see me talk about it says you're full of shit.
What's that word mean?
Solitude. It's having, to me, it's having these deep internal thoughts where there's no distractions. You can navigate issues in your life. You can reach depths of issues you're having or find solutions. And for me, it's like, you know, for solitude, for some people, it might be meditation.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's I wake up at 5 a.m. I have my morning routine. By 5:45, running shoes are on. I'm running out the door, and I'm logging miles. And it's dark. It is the same route every morning. I see maybe 2 people, 1 dog. I've that route dialed in, and by mile 3, I forget I'm running anymore. And any issue that is occurring in my life, any problem, it's going to find me during that run, and I'm going to navigate it to the depths of wherever I need to take it. Like I talked about earlier with you guys, the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. I love it. And when I was reading it, it made me realize the parallels between what deep work is intended to be and how running provides that for me. In the beginning, I didn't find that at all. It was survival. It was a sufferfest. That's what running was.
Sufferfest.
It was a pure sufferfest. And then slowly, I started getting some like mental clarity out of it. And like I talked about, I started getting emotional on some of these runs. I'd be running, and I'd be thinking about my life or my wife, and now the baby on the way. I think about the baby all the time in my morning runs, and the father I want to be. And it's this moment of clarity where there's no phone, there's no emails. It seems like the world is asleep still. It's dark, and I can just navigate any issue I have in my life. And that's where I think of my best business ideas, marketing campaigns, what I'm going to do next, who I need to hire, who I need to fire, like anything in terms of business and life. For me now, my morning run is not a physical gain. It is a mental gain for sure.
What happens when you are hit by one of those ideas? You record it on your phone, or do you stop for a second, or how do you handle it?
I repeat it in my head until I finish the run.
What if there's multiple ideas? You just go going back and forth between all of them?
No, I want to let that one pop up. So like, say for example, if there's something that pops up at mile 2 of a 10-mile run, and if it's really important, I will repeat it for the remainder of that run until I get home, and I write it in my notes. But typically what happens is it pops up in my head. And like, if you think of it in terms of, like, my head is a cornfield, okay?
Okay.
My head is a cornfield, and during this run, what I'm doing is carving out this maze in this cornfield. And at the end of that run, I might get half of that maze completed. And then I go inside, I make breakfast, I don't think about it again. I go to work. The next morning, when I start running again, I don't try to do this, it just happens. I pick up where I left off, and I keep carving out that cornfield. And after a few days, maybe a few weeks, I built it the way I want to build it, and now I can navigate it and go find the solutions in that maze. And that's the only way to describe the way it feels on these morning runs.
I've had dreams like that before that were like
Where
to
they
be
restarted?
continued.
Yeah.
And they started right where they ended.
And the thing is,
Fucking weird.
if it's a big problem, it won't go away in my morning runs until I take care of it.
Dude. And also, I don't think you've mentioned this, but you don't listen to music.
I don't.
So you're just out there.
Yeah, what I found with music is that it works really well if you choose a playlist or a set of songs that have the same beats per minute that you're trying to match on your run. So that's what I used to do is I'd go on Spotify, and they have running playlists on Spotify, like 145 to 150 beats per minute. And I'd go find that playlist and I'd play it so that you can run to the beat. But what also happens if you get a really jacked up song that you love and you're singing and you start moving faster, it throws your heart rate out. And occasionally I'll listen to music. One of the most emotional runs I've had in a long time. We were in Michigan for the holidays. That's where my wife's family lives. And we were up at their cottage house, which is on a lake. And it had a bunch of snow the days leading up. And I went for a 10-mile run in these back trails in the snow. It was epic. It was all like white, and it looked like it was out of a scene of a movie. And I was listening to music during this. It was just like acoustic emo music, like old music from the 2000s.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just running through the woods listening to this music, and just tears started just like flying down my face. And I finished that run thinking that was epic. That was one of the most epic runs I've had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Is there something in particular that you mind sharing that hit you, or you just got emotional?
Just get emotional. Just thinking about like life, and then sometimes I think about my mom. On those runs, my mom passed away from cancer in 2019, and I was just thinking about her and life and where life would be with her, and she always pops in my head during these runs. So that's most of it.
Yeah, a lot of times for me, it's just things I'm grateful for. Probably grateful for the times you had with her, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Curious with the both of you guys, since you guys both run now and you get that time of solitude. When you were lifting, did you, like, when lifting was your focus 5 years ago, did you have time that you would carve out that, like, could be the same effect that you get from running nowadays? Or did you have anything like that? Same with you. Or did you have to deliberately go and meditate or deliberately go somewhere and think, or did you not really do that?
I did. I really don't get it anymore. And here's why I'd say that happens is I used to get that when I was lifting and bodybuilding, when I was trying to achieve a certain goal. And I think that's probably why now I choose these races to train for, is if I would set aside 12 to 16 weeks to do a cut, or did a bodybuilding show in college, or I wanted to lose weight and reach a certain goal, I would always go all in on that goal. So there'd be evenings where I'd be doing cardio on the Stairmaster or hitting arms and be listening to music, and I get that same solitude where it was like the best feeling in the entire world.
Yeah.
That was like a very similar feeling then to what I get now in these preps, because I like having some sort of goal to train for. I always have, and I think I always will, but they are very similar feelings based off of what I was training for. Different styles of training, but very similar feelings.
How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I would get some degree of that with lifting, but that part started to go away when I started to like get more and more into powerlifting, because then it's like, I don't know, it's just it's a different spot, when you become proficient at it and you get to a certain level. But when it came to, because sometimes some of it's just like I have these goals and now there's like these other things that I kind of have to do, and I've been lifting for so long that it was like, it was a little bit annoying, after doing like a big squat, like to have to do the glute ham raise and to have to do, but it's like, no, you said that you want to be great at this, like, so you go fucking do it and shut up about it. But where I would get that was from walking, ever since I started walking a long time ago. And even journaling to a certain extent. Journaling for me, like journaling or listening to some music, just personal development, just growing. Like when, I don't know about you guys, but like sometimes when you hear something, like I listen to a lot of podcasts or I listen to a lot of YouTube videos, and when you hear something and it strikes a chord with you, you almost like feel your body growing from it. You're like, holy fuck, I never saw that perspective before. And it gets you so fired up. To me, that felt very similar to the way that I'm feeling sometimes when I'm running, especially when you get kind of into running and you get over the hump and you can kind of modulate how fast or slow you want to go. You can calm yourself down. You can gain a little bit more control of your breathing and things like that. So yeah, just even journaling and just like seeking out, just trying to be better at stuff.
I think there's one thing I've realized and learned this past year is there are certain things or certain people who are going to fuel you with energy, and there's people that are going to, people or things that are going to suck energy out of you.
Okay.
And there was like one dinner in particular that I had this past year. Christian Huff and Sadie Robertson were in town visiting us, and it was them two, me and my wife, and then Adam Klink, who works with us, and his wife. And we're at this dinner at this place called Lonesome Dove, downtown Austin. Amazing place to eat dinner if you're ever in Austin. And they were just like really amazing people who like filled this conversation. It was like, you go to a dinner and it's all surface level conversation. You're talking about bullshit and anything that anyone can bring up. And you're like, I just want to get out of here. This was one of those conversations that we were all so engaged, you didn't want it to end. It was actually deep, meaningful, impactful conversations. And I left that dinner and I told my wife, I said, I only want to go to these type of dinners anymore. These are the people that I want to be around because I'm being filled and fueled, and I leave with more energy rather than sometimes I go to a dinner and I'm just like sucked away. And it makes you take inventory of your life and who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're consuming or what you're creating. And you have the choice. You have the choice of, are you consuming and surrounding yourself with things that fuel or suck away? And that's been one of my big, focuses this past year in terms of anything I decided to do in my life, in terms of training or business or people. We all have the choice. Growth is a choice. We have to continuously wake up and decide and choose to grow. And if we don't, we sustain and die.
How did you take action on that after that dinner? Like, because what you said, like I don't know. I guess when it comes to, I'm very careful about the people I keep around me because I know how much they can influence me, even if I don't talk to them often. But after you came to that realization after that, what did you do? Did you literally take inventory on the people that were close in your circle, that worked for you, et cetera? Like, did you take some action upon that? Or are you just more mindful of that and now you pay attention to if these people take energy away from you or if they add to you?
I'd say more mindful of learning how to say no more often.
Okay.
And it's taken me a long time to learn how to say no and become better at saying no, because I used to always say yes to, because everything was an opportunity. I was always saying yes to what I thought was everything was an opportunity. And after getting burned multiple times or wasting time and realize, what am I doing? Is this really the right thing? Am I surrounding myself with the right people? You learn how to say no a little bit better. But after that dinner, I was very conscious of, if I'm going to spend my time doing something, my time, money, energy, resources with someone or on something, I have to be all in on that thing. And it's just being more conscious of that. And I've said a no to a lot more things that have allowed me to focus on things that actually matter or things that I actually want to do now.
Yeah, and you say yes to certain things, and then you blame those people, and it's like, well, I just shouldn't have spent that amount of time with them. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're right. It's a choice, and sometimes we make a choice to get involved in something that we're like, fuck, I did it again. I messed up again.
Well, I remember sitting in college, and I think it was like economics class, and hearing the term opportunity cost for the first time in my life. And I mean, I'll never forget where I was sitting, what the instructor looked like, what the classroom looked like when I heard opportunity cost for the first time. And it just stuck. I was thinking, this doesn't apply to economics. This applies to every part of your life. Like, you only get to choose so many opportunities. And when you choose one, you sacrifice a whole lot of other ones. So you better choose wisely. And I'm very conscious now of what opportunities I choose to do because of the sacrifices I'm possibly missing out on.
I want to ask you something because I think I know you'd have really good insight into this. I totally understand what you get by saying no to more things now. I also think that there might be a difference because of where you are currently.
100%.
You know where I'm going with this. Let's say a younger person trying to get opportunities, and there's a lot of things that could be coming your way. How would you help them figure out the thought process in terms of knowing when to say no? Because there could be the thing that you say no to, and that could have been the thing that really ended up being the thing that got you to where you want to go, but you said no to it. So what both of you guys actually, what would the thought process be for an individual in that type of situation?
I mean, in the beginning, I said yes to just about everything because I didn't want to miss an opportunity. I was trying to learn. I was trying to soak up as much as possible. Like when I got stationed in South Korea for 9 months in 2016, my goal when I got there was I'm going to learn at least one new thing every day. I'm either going to teach myself or I'm going to learn from someone. And a lot of times when I was learning from someone is because I said yes to an opportunity that popped up. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have learned a lot of things. And then slowly over time, I was able to say no to a few things, then more things and more things, because where I spent my time had a bigger return or larger return. In the beginning, where I spent my time had maybe a very little return, if not a return at all.
Yeah.
So you realize over time, where is that time best spent? And in the beginning, how you decide, well, does it fit my morals, my ethics? Do I think it's going to help me? And then, probably say yes. But you have to go through that experience to really find out what's a yes and what's a no. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. It gets to be really hard to navigate that, because you don't want to, like, you don't want to just treat the people well that can advance you. You know, that's an ugly spot to be in. You don't want to end up kind of being like a social climber in a way, but you know, when someone has their shit together and they have a nice home and they got some nice cars and they have some, you're trying to advance your life. You're trying to continue to improve. And those kinds of people, a lot of times those are the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with. So it can be hard though, because you have friends, you have family, you have some people that kind of, they don't have that same goal. And so sometimes it can be difficult. You don't want to just say no because it's not going to advance you. Like that gets to be a weird spot, has been my experience. I guess put in not such a nice way, I just probably would choose not to hang out with anybody if I was basing it only on that. You know what I mean? I would just probably just chill at my house.
I'm too rich for y'all.
Something like that.
I'll
Something
fuck
like that.
with you.
I just mean you got to. I would have to go out of my way.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what I love about the podcast is like bringing in people like yourself. Like we all of us are like-minded. We all are working what it feels like as hard as we can every day to make improvements. Once I go outside of here, I'm like, like you know what I mean? Like I'd rather just not hang out with most people. So, and I didn't mean everybody. I didn't mean everybody in this room.
Yeah, we haven't hung out in a long time.
Just snip that part of the podcast and make it a clip.
Yeah.
And then just title it, Mark's too wealthy for all of you. I'm fucking with you. You know,
That's all right.
You'll be all right. You guys want to take some questions from Discord?
What do you got, Andrew? You got something brewing over there?
Yeah, well,
You
okay.
gotta
So
have a question
before
yourself.
we
Go
get
for it.
before we get to Discord, though, in regards to because like what Mark was saying, you know, when you first start something, as you get a little bit older, you might get hurt, right? So if I wanted to take up running and I wanted to progress in it, how do I not progress too slow? Like, how do I not push myself enough? You know, like if I go out and like, all right, I'm going to run a quarter of this lap and like, good job, Andrew, you crushed it today. And then I walk the 75% of it and I go home. Like, man, I don't know why I'm not getting any better. Like, how do you progress just like for just a simple person trying to get in shape, or maybe like myself, just trying to pick up running? How do I know how fast to push and how hard to push in the very beginning?
I think you just gotta apply some common sense to it a little bit, where it's apply pressure, apply a stimulus to where you don't feel like you're overdoing it. But I mean, if I was getting started, I wouldn't want to go into a workout and think, man, I could have done that 3 more times. I'm gonna go home and treat myself. It's kind of, okay, where do I feel like I've gotten a little bit better today? And I've pushed, but to a point where I can still come back tomorrow and push a little bit more, where you're not destroying yourself. My current coach right now, Jeff Cunningham, he says this thing, it's better to be occasionally good. No, sorry. It's better to be consistently good rather than occasionally great. So he says he has some athletes sometimes who will come out and they want to impress everyone out on the track. So they will go all out. They will have blood squirting out of their eyeballs just to be number one on that track workout for the day. But then they can't show up for the next 7 days for the easy runs because they've destroyed themselves for that workout.
you know what I'm thinking about right now.
Well, I'm thinking about what Mark had said. Well, I think he called them like practice squad MVPs or something like that.
Yeah. Practice All-Americans.
Practice All-Americans.
Yeah, like dudes like in football, they would like line up, like the defender would line up like right in the spot that they knew you're running the ball, because they know the whole offense. So it's
Same
like
team.
It's like, dude, get the fuck out of the way. Like you don't normally line up there. Like that's not your normal position. And they're like already halfway cheating it, and you're like, dude, come on, what are you doing? Get out of here.
It's also reminiscent of just like people in the gym, man.
Oh, gotcha.
Like people that be doing like these crazy lifts in the gym for the gram, but then they're too fucked up or they injure themselves trying to do something they shouldn't be
Constantly testing their strength and not allowing themselves to grow too, right? It's like, fuck, you could damn, you could be so much stronger if you stop doing that bullshit.
I mean, the truth is, like, consistency is not sexy, and it never will be. It's like, that's what's the issue with the stuff on Instagram with these massive, like, viral workout videos is that is the sexy stuff that people want to see, but no one wants to watch someone. I guess they watch me, but most people don't want to watch someone just go run 10 miles easy every morning because it's not sexy. But I think we're making our way to where people are finding consistency sexy again.
Why are you the most hated man in running?
I think because I won't say I'm the most hated guy in running.
We had a conversation earlier, but for some reason runners don't like you.
I think it's because
You don't look like a skinny bitch.
Oh!
Take that.
yeah, I mean, I think one, it's I don't look like your typical runner. I think I'm slowly starting to look more like your typical runner, but when I first started, I wasn't.
Hell no.
And I think another part is because I announce my goals publicly of what I'm going to train for. Whether I achieve them or not, I make it publicly known that this is what I'm trying to do, and this is the journey I'm going to document. And that makes some people uncomfortable. So like when I announced that I was going to train for this sub 3 hour marathon last year, there's like this forum called Let's Run. I never went on it because I didn't want to let myself go see it. But apparently there were like all these threads on there. I was getting DMs from people saying you will never do this.
And these are people in the running community?
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
So it's and it was people coming after it that, one, I didn't look like the runner, and two, I was announcing, because sub 3 is a respectable time, and people didn't want me to do it. So then when I did it, obviously everyone said he cheated.
Look at the shoes he's wearing.
Yeah, it was all this.
Because of all those steroids he's using.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, performance enhancers.
It was all this cheating stuff. Like, it was wild. But I think it's part of it. And I used to really let that stuff bother me. You know, because when you start creating content online, you want people to like you and respect you and trust you. And I remember the first time I ever put content out online. It was 2012. It was in my college dorm room, and it was when the bodybuilding.com forums were popular. So I said, I'm going to help people. I had this pre-workout meal that I used to have every day in college before my workout. I was like, I'm going to share this with the world because it'll help people. So I went and I made this thread on bodybuilding.com forum, and I shared like best pre-workout meal that you need to try. And I listed all the ingredients, the macros. And I came back from class later that day thinking it was going to be like all these people praising me for it. And it was all this shit. Like, everyone was telling me how stupid I was for this meal and how it was horrible. And that was my first exposure to, man, like people really didn't like that. And then when you start creating more content, you realize there's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of negativity where now I don't expose myself to it anymore. I don't read comments.
Yeah.
I don't read it because it will, whether I want it to or not, it will affect me, you know, and the way I create and the way I build my business.
So if somebody is following you for running, like running is the sexy stuff, what's the unsexy stuff about running that you have to do that people don't want to talk about or maybe don't want to share?
Just the slow, easy runs you're doing every single day. I mean, that's one of them. Is a lot of the workouts we showcase in the marathon prep are the track workouts, the tempo workouts, the big marathon prep workouts, like the big 20, 22 mile workouts. Those are fun. Those are hard, but it's not really cool to watch someone run 11 miles easy and slow. Right? Or just like people want to see diet all the time. My diet really doesn't change. Like it is very regimen and routine. It's pretty much the same thing every single day. It doesn't change too much other than dinner based off my wife is craving that evening and pregnancy cravings. But it's just that it's consistency. I mean, I can say in a humble way that I am a very consistent person in terms of training, business, showing up, and doing the non-sexy stuff over and over again, because that is where I see the return. And I'm okay with that.
I personally have one more question. And then if you guys have any others, cool. But the Discord had quite a few good ones.
Yeah.
I personally have one more. I've gotten to a spot by tracking for years to be in a place for the past, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years where I don't track anything anymore. I'm able to maintain my body composition. Mark also doesn't track anything either. So I'm curious for yourself. You did that one day where you tracked and you're at 3,600 calories, but you don't track. What do you think allowed you to get to a place where you can maintain your nutrition protocol, you can maintain your athletic ability outside without having to track your macros every single day? You're pretty much intuitive at this point. People are going to call it intuitive eating.
Yeah.
How did you get here?
Well, I had a severe eating disorder when I was younger. When I was 14, in middle school, I was hospitalized for it. So it went on for months, and it got to the point where my parents saw me losing weight. So they were pulling me out of school on a weekly basis to go get all these tests done in the hospital. That's when we were in Pennsylvania still. I knew what I was doing to myself. I knew I was starving myself. And I don't know, to this day, I can't tell you why. It was more so I was attracted to the control that I had on my life at that moment. So doctors thought I had like a stomach bug, a worm at one point. They thought I had all these different diseases. They were like, I was going in and out of tests nonstop. And it finally got to a point where I was playing baseball that year. And one Saturday morning, I couldn't get out of bed to go to the game because I was so physically fatigued. I mean, hair was like straw. It was brittle. You could see all my bones, super thin, super weak and fatigued. And one of the last tests we did was I went in, they were going to see how my stomach was performing. So they put a camera down my throat. And what they saw was the food from 2 days prior was still in my stomach. So all my organs were starting to shut down. And it got pretty severe. So one day, and this is kind of how I came out of it. One day, my mom picked me up at school. She said, we're going for another appointment. And I saw we pulled into the hospital, but instead of turning left like we normally did, we turned right into a new section. And it was like these outpatient clinics. And we pulled up and it said eating disorder clinic. And I was like, oh shit. Like, they know. So they took me upstairs and doctor confronted me and I just started bawling, crying. Just because I was caught. They found out. And I remember coming back that day, back to the house, and I realized I had to start eating more. Because if I didn't, who knows what was going to happen to me. Not just die, but I didn't want to get sent off to some medical school or, anywhere. So I remember going to the cupboard and I pulled out a box of Pop-Tarts. And I remember looking at the box of Pop-Tarts and it said 400 calories for 2 Pop-Tarts. And I was like, holy shit, this is probably more calories than I've been consuming on a daily basis. So I forced myself to eat these 2 Pop-Tarts and felt extremely guilty. And it was just slowly months and months and months of recovery it was probably over 2 years till I finally get to a point where I was healthy again. Like I had a healthier relationship with food. And then when I went to college, everything was good. I was fine. I was studying nutrition. I wasn't tracking anything. But then I decided to do a bodybuilding competition my junior year of college. And I started tracking macros then. This is when I first started tracking macros. If It Fits Your Macros was really big, flexible dieting.
Yeah.
And that triggered these unhealthy relationships with food again. Super controlling. Like if I had to eat 400 grams of carbs that day, it couldn't be 399, it couldn't be 401, it had to be 400. So I realized how controlling that could be. And for years after that, like years, I would track my macros every single day and had to be spot on, super controlled. And I realized what it was doing to me. So I slowly stopped tracking macros and over time built these healthy relationships with food back into my life, which now I have, no issues with. But there's also always that concern of if I go back to tracking, will that come back?
You think it could?
I think it could. because I mean, when I go in on something, when I go all in, I am all in. And if I tell myself I'm going to track my calories and I'm not going to miss a macro by a gram, I will get very controlling with it. And I will get very consistent with it. So part of me doesn't track because I know the possibility of an unhealthy relationship with food. And I really like my relationship with food right now. And another reason is just I like the same foods. I don't want to have to take my phone out every time I want to eat something and track it. And I'm very conscious now at the end of the day, did I have enough of carbs? Did I have enough of fat? Did I have enough of protein? If my diet was not on routine like it normally is.
Were you throwing food up?
No, I was never throwing up. But I would like excessively work out in the evenings. Mm-hmm. I would avoid food. Like I remember in school for lunch, the progression of it where I decided I wanted to start losing weight. So my lunch was a bottle of water, an orange, a bag of chips, and a turkey sandwich. And then I eliminated the bag of chips. And then I eliminated the orange. And then it was just a water and the turkey sandwich. And then I would eat half the bread on the turkey sandwich. And then it got to the point where it was just water and the turkey. That's one of the things I can remember. And then I remember going back to class after lunch, and I would always be checking my hip bones. If I could feel my hip bones and my stomach was flat, that was like a good day for me. And if I went to bed starving, that was a good day for me. But I always remember I would grab my hip bones. But what that taught me was I can quickly identify people with eating disorders now. Very, very quickly. Just in a social setting or things that they're doing or how they treat food. And I talked about this on my podcast and on social media, and the responses has been amazing over the past couple of years of how many people are actively going through an eating disorder or trying to recover from one. I was mind blown by it.
Do you think that were you trying to get attention, you think, or something at that age, or was it just purely like you just thought like this is a better way to have a better body?
It wasn't even, it's hard to explain because I had no issues with my body. I didn't want more attention. I just liked having control over something, and I found that I could control it, and I became obsessed with it.
Go ahead.
That's the only way to describe it.
Well, I'm also curious because like I've seen this, especially within bodybuilding, physique sports, bikini, etc. Because when people take on tracking, it can be very beneficial. Like I tracked for years when I was competing, and even after that, because it did give me control and gave me an understanding of how much to intake. But I never let it get so far that I would really be starving myself or having any type of disordered eating. But for individuals, number one, from the experiences that you have and the conversations you've had with people that have been talking to you and reporting to you, like for you to be able to tell who has an eating disorder just by some conversation, that in and of itself is something that I think a lot of individuals within fitness that are coaches, that's a good thing to understand, especially because if they're going to coach these type of athletes, a lot of their athletes might have eating disorders and masking it by competing in bodybuilding or competing in these sports. So I guess my first question is, if somebody is maybe, how can somebody tell if they actually have a disorder? Because they can make excuses for their actions. How can they tell? And then secondly, how did you, well, I guess let's just start there. How can somebody tell if they have disordered eating, but they're masking it with tracking and being exact, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of the things I've seen is, one, avoiding social situations where there's food. So back, when I was younger, if I knew there was a social situation where there was going to be food and I was going to be pressured to eat, I would avoid it at all costs. Or, I'm a very observant person. Like in any room I'm in, I'm just like observant of what people are doing or are moving. So if you're out to eat with someone, for example, and they're like moving their food, like to spread it on the plate to make it look like they ate it, but they really didn't. Or, say for example, you're with a group of friends and it's like team lunch, and everyone knows it's team lunch that day. Everyone knows it's team lunch every Wednesday. And every Wednesday, they bring their own food and they refuse to eat the food that's there, no matter what it is, because they want to hit their calories, which is nothing wrong with that. But if it gets to a point where they're actively refusing to eat anything else other than what has been tracked and measured and scaled and accounted for in MyFitnessPal, then it slowly becomes an issue. Like I remember this one time, there's all these stories I have from back then where I prepped this meal and I weighed everything out and I input it into MyFitnessPal already. And I ate half the meal. So as I'm walking with this plate, I tripped and I dropped the other half of it on the ground. And because I already tracked it, I made sure to pick up every little piece of food in the bowl and consume it because I didn't want to start over again. That's like an obsessive, controlling, disordered eating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to like right now identify what to look out for, but I can just pick up on it with some people.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's out there more than people think, and especially in the fitness space.
Absolutely in the fitness space.
Yeah.
Oh, then I have this question too. Now that you don't track, we talk a lot on the show about just like habits that you can use just outside of tracking, certain lifestyle habits that are just going to make it easier for you to lose body fat or maintain your body composition. What lifestyle habits do you have now that make it easy for you to be able to maintain your fitness and your performance?
Yeah, a lot of it's like whole natural food sources. It's like very little processed foods. This past year, we've eliminated like seed oils out of our diet. So like the oils we primarily cook with are either olive oil, coconut oil, beef tallow, ghee. I do add oils to it, like a lot of my cooking. It's an easy way for me to get calories in without being overly full. So I'll add it to, like if I have even ground beef, I have 80-20 ground beef, I'm still adding some beef tallow into that. If you've never had beef tallow is delicious. Instead of doing egg whites, I do whole eggs. I want to get the nutrients from the whole eggs, and I'm getting more fat. I do a lot of fruit, and depending on like what day it is, I'll try to get veggies in. But at the same time, like if I'm trying to get a lot of calories in, I'm not getting as many vegetables in because I don't want all this fiber. It's, filling me up. But most of my foods, like if I could name it on one hand of what I consume, a lot of avocados, fruit, eggs, red meat, potatoes, nutrition bars, peanut butters, protein powder. It's all of that, just more and more and more of it.
And you don't eat much, like in the morning. It doesn't look like, I've seen some of your videos and I'm like, he kind of eats a little bit like me. Like you have like a little kind of pre-workout drink that I think is your own supplement brand. And then when you come back from your run, maybe you have like a protein shake and a coffee. And then maybe it's like past almost the afternoon when you start you're eating, or how does it work?
Well, right now, like I'll do some carbs and electrolytes before my run. And then after.
And that's just in a shake, right?
Yep, just in a shake. And then after my run, I'll either do like eggs, toast, avocado, or I make this bowl where it's protein powder, raw cacao, flaxseed, and then milk. And I mix that up. Then I add in raw honey, peanut butter, coconut flakes, cacao nibs, and then fruit. And that bowl alone gets me like 900 calories.
That's a wild shake.
It is. Well, it's not a shake. It's a bowl.
Bowl.
You make the protein powder like a sludge, and you layer it in there. And that has been one of my favorite things to consume lately.
The cacao butter, is it like soft?
Cacao nibs.
I think you said you mix the protein powder with cacao butter, right?
With peanut butter and raw honey.
Oh, I got
So I mix all that up, and
that works really good and tastes amazing.
Yeah, and then sprinkle on some cacao nibs and unsweetened coconut flakes. I've been obsessed with coconut lately.
It's delicious.
Coconut's all right. It makes me kind of nauseous.
If you
the texture.
If you take
Really? Like the chewiness? Checked like
The texture of coconut, just I don't
oh,
know.
that's enjoyable.
Don't dig it.
Never liked it.
If you take protein powder and just dump it in peanut butter and start, I mean, it takes a lot of stirring.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to like add like water to it or something.
It always seems
but-
like you never have enough liquid, and then it's like, oh, that did work out.
but it tastes fucking awesome.
yeah, I love those bowls.
I mean, I love cooking too. So, especially with my wife being pregnant right now, and she has like these, food aversions to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take over all the cooking. I'll just experiment with anything. It's like last night we made some chicken pad thai, which was delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious. But I love being in the kitchen, just trying new things.
Mm.
Make a lot of homemade pasta, chicken parms, ribs on the Traeger,
Yeah.
anything.
Give it to us, Andrew. What you got over there?
All right. So if you guys want, you guys got to hit the link down in the description below because we're going to take some questions from the Discord. And so we're just going to start right off the top with Stacker. He asks, how is Nick able to find or create a balance in life so well with owning a company, being a hybrid athlete, and now expecting a baby?
I mean, it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It is nonstop from the time I wake up at 5 a.m. until, 10 p.m. at night. And it kind of goes back to learning how to say no to certain things, where I take inventory of what is priority in my life. It's like inventory for me right now, priority is my wife and our daughter on the way, and then my business, and then fitness goals. And having that list of priorities helps me make decisions of what I need to do throughout the day. So like if something pops up, like I think how does this affect my wife and my daughter on the way? How does it affect my business? How does it affect the goal of the sub 250 marathon we're about to do? And saying no to a lot of other things has allowed me to focus on what's really important.
Mm.
It's really easy when you have so many things you're focused on, you go wide rather than deep. You're just spreading yourself so thin. So many people are trying to focus on so many things, and they're staying shallow in this wider range of tasks or goals. I choose a few goals at a moment and I go all in on it. Also, over the past couple of years, I've been able to build out a team where I've been able to delegate a lot of what used to be my responsibilities. And I have a solid team behind me now that really helps me.
How do you, instead of going wide and going deep, how do you, I know, right? How do you compartmentalize those things that you are going to go deep on and not worry about the other things going on? Because my son, he's 1 and change. I don't know exactly how old he is now. So it's been, an adjustment period and stuff. And, thankfully we are building an awesome team here with the podcast. But there are things that are going on where I'm just like, nope, I got to go over here. But then as I'm here, I'm thinking about the stuff that's going on this side. So how have you been able to just focus on just the things that you're focusing on?
Well, I've hired some really stud people at our business past couple of months, and they all know that at any point in the future, if there's something that can't get done through them, they need to find someone and hire them to fill that role. So I've completely kind of opened the floodgates of any role that needs hired, we will hire so that we can focus on what we are experts in. That's been one thing in terms of business. Read this article recently. It was called Giving Up Your Legos. And we had our whole team read this article. And it was all about the startup space and how the hard part and difficult part and challenging part of startups is that in the beginning, there's a few key founding members and you hold all of the Legos. And then as you grow and scale, you have to be willing to give up some of your Legos. And that's really hard because you know what built those Legos. You know what those Legos look like. You know how they perform, where they fit. And when you give them up, whoever has those next might not know exactly where they put them. But in order to scale and grow, you have to be ready and willing to give up your Legos. So right now within my business, we're giving up Legos to scale and grow. So that's one thing that I've been focusing on, to go deep on the things that really matter and that I can provide value and impact, and then delegate those other things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, that's another one? Or
Yeah.
you want to?
Yeah. If you want to keep going in on that, go
I
ahead.
just want to just add, like, your priorities can change and switch a lot, like just because, like, of course, family, wives, things like that. Of course, those things are a major priority. But if things are cool with your wife and your wife understands what your day-to-day looks like and you communicate well and you ask, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And you both talk about it. It's like, well, there's one thing that is like, it's still priority, number one, if anything happens, but it doesn't need tending at the moment. The stuff that needs to be tending is you got to get your ass out for a run.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an emergency of some kind, somebody's sick or something happened, then of course you can course correct in accordance to your kind of priority list. But I think that people think that things need to be like this priority list and nothing can ever shift or move around. And each one of those things you mentioned, they're all important, and so sometimes they got to be kind of shuffled around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're constantly being shuffled in my life. Yeah.
There's because you actually mentioned quite a few on this podcast, so this question from the Discord's pretty spot on. What books, and this is from Zamanji, what books help guide, inspire, and motivate? You've mentioned quite a few already, but what great books come to mind that you think some of our listeners should absolutely grab?
The Hard Things. The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah.
Is a really good one. I'm currently reading Traction and the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. It's a really good one so far. Business Made Simple or Anything Else by Donald Miller. Donald Miller is really good. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey was a solid, fun read. Shoe Dog by
Nike.
the Nike book, Phil Knight, was a solid read. And then Deep Work, I recently finished up. Deep Work was really good. And then another one I'm reading right now is The Molecule of More.
I've heard of that one. That
one is amazing. It's all about dopamine and how dopamine essentially controls everything we do in our life. And I'm enjoying that book more than most books I've read recently.
Dude, how long have you been just in the rabbit hole of like reading a bunch of like these types of books? Like how many years?
Not long, to be honest. Maybe
Really?
Maybe 2.5 years.
What spurred it for you?
Ironman preps, being on the bike for 6 hours, thinking I'm just gonna. I mean, I would kill a book sitting on the bike for 6 hours. So that's really what spurred it. And some of those books that I listened to, because I listened to them on audio book, Audible. Some of those books that I listened to helped me make really big business decisions that I really needed help with at the time. So like certain books found me at the right place and the right time to help me get through certain situations.
Sick. All right, let's get to these last two. One that I just wanted to highlight by Brian runs this. He just asked you about your diet, which we covered a lot about tracking and how much to consume, blah, blah, blah. But the next one I wanted to get to was from Brady. How can someone seamlessly integrate running and lifting together, i.e. programming sprint workouts and heavy squats in the same program?
I'd say first you have to ask yourself is where you're coming from. Are you starting from a endurance background or are you starting from a strength training background? And if you're not starting from any background at all, slowly incorporate both. But like say, for example, I'm an endurance athlete and I'm wanting to incorporate strength programming. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower my volume of endurance training and slowly increase the volume of strength training. And then vice versa for a strength athlete with endurance. I think a lot of that is going to be facilitated by what days you place what workouts in. So like me personally, I like to do my Wednesdays are always my tempo workouts and my track workouts. Those are also the same days as my lower body strength days because I kind of like just beat my legs up on the same day so I can get it over with so that Thursday, Friday, I can recover with some easy runs. And then Saturday, I can have my big running workout. So a lot of it is placement of these workouts. But also, you have to be honest with yourself and realize that if you want to be decent at endurance and you want to be decent at strength, you're not going to be the best you possibly could at either or of those, or both of those at the same time. Like, I know that I love endurance, and if I stopped a lot of my strength training, I'd probably get faster, but I'm willing to sacrifice speed to keep strength in because I love strength training. And goes both ways with that. So as one increases, volume of one increases, you have to be ready and willing to decrease the volume of the other and balance that out.
I want to add on real quick. I'm so happy with your explanation of that, because it's the same exact thing when people ask the question about, I think, any hybrid athlete, but I get the question about jujitsu and lifting often. And it's the same fucking concept where if you're coming from a lifting background and you want to start Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you need to lower the intensity and potentially the volume of which you're lifting so that you can add in this jiu-jitsu volume and not get wrecked. Slowly, as you become more accustomed to jiu-jitsu, you're going to slowly be able to increase your lifting volume a little bit, and your jiu-jitsu volume is going to come up because this doesn't fatigue you as much as it used to in the beginning. Same thing, if you start jiu-jitsu and you want to start lifting, you may need to limit your jiu-jitsu training sessions or the intensity at which you train, and then bring in lifting slowly, and then slowly increase lifting over time. It's for any type of dual sport athlete that's in different realms, strength training and something else, it's the same thing. You can apply what you just said to almost anything and reap good results. You just need to give yourself consistency and time to get good at it.
Yeah, and if you have good discipline at one thing, then don't be scared to leave it. You know, don't be scared to just, if you want to run and you want to work on some stuff, go run. Don't worry about the lifting. Like, get away from the lifting for a little bit. If you don't have the discipline and you're just starting lifting and you're going 3 days a week, by all means, don't stop, because you need to have that discipline there. But if you're a lifter and you've always been lifting, don't worry about missing a little bit. I know it's hard, but you're trying to do something new. You're trying to do something different, and you don't have to be like overly anxious or worried that you're not going to ever gain your strength or muscle back again.
Yeah, I used to be afraid to, when I started running, to miss strength workouts. And now, I mean, I'll go a week sometimes with no strength workout based on my schedule or my running. And what used to bother me just doesn't bother me anymore. And I know it'll come back at some point. It'll be a massive emphasis in my life again. But for the goal that I'm training for, that is where the focus and priority is.
Dope. So yeah, we got those questions from our Discord. So if you guys have any questions for, you know, we have like a whole, I don't know how Discord still works. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but you guys know exactly how it works.
Is this the internet?
Yeah. I think you can, it's like a BitTorrent thing. I'm not sure. It's something like that. But yeah, you guys can go into this Discord, which I think is on the online thing.
How many tokens you need for that?
Right. So that's the thing. And Nsima's disgusted. But I did want to ask about BPN and working with Will Tennyson, because I love that guy's YouTube channel, and I seen that you guys linked up. So what's it like with working with him?
Will's great. Will, kind of, I was explaining to you earlier, he's just naturally funny. Like, Will came down and spent some time at BPN. We took him shooting at a range, which he was unfamiliar with coming from Canada. And then we took him to get some Texas barbecue. And then we took him to, there's this steakhouse in Austin called Steiner Ranch Steakhouse. It's the best steak I've ever had. Wow. I haven't had anything that's beat it yet. And it was a 22-ounce cowboy ribeye that overlooked Lake Austin or Lake Travis. So Will went there with us. But no, Will's great. We love having him on the team. He's a great person. He's hilarious. And he loves food just as much as I do.
I'm hungry.
What's your favorite product, or which one do you use the most from your own company?
I'd say either. I mean, I use just about all of it. Right now, I'm using a lot of G1M Sport, which is our endurance formula. It's 20 grams of carbohydrates from cluster dextrin and 350 milligrams of sodium per serving. So, like, for example, before my big workouts on Saturdays now, I'll do 3 scoops of that and then 2 scoops of electrolytes to get over 2,000 milligrams of sodium 90 minutes prior to training to boost blood volume. So either that, or we just launched a sleep formula called Peak Sleep that I'm currently in love with. That product's in a clinical study right now. It's 4 weeks into a clinical study.
Cool.
So that one's really cool.
What you said about the blood volume, that's also something that you grabbed from research that somebody else did, right?
Yeah. Dr. James D. Nicolantonio, he's putting out some really cool stuff on Instagram. He'd be a great guy for the show.
Yeah.
But he has a book called The Salt Fix and then Win. And Win is all about boosting athletic performance through nutrition and training. And one of the things he talked about is 90 minutes prior to training, doing a salt solution that is as salty as sweat. And it's been shown to boost blood volume and boost endurance, boost performance. Because what happens when we train as a whole, but really in endurance, sweating a lot, is that as we become dehydrated, our blood volume decreases, performance decreases.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can boost blood volume prior to a competition or a race, it can increase athletic performance like 8 to 10%.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you were mentioning you went on a run a couple days ago and lost like a tremendous amount of weight. And I was just saying, like, imagine how weak you would feel like trying to bench press after that.
Yeah, I went for a run. I left 200 pounds, and it was a 20-mile run, and I came back at 192. I'm waiting for the day I see 189 on the scale. That's like, I haven't seen 189 on the scale for a long time.
Wow.
You're going to be like, bro, got to pull your shit together.
Yeah.
That cop was correct.
That's right. What else you got, Andrew? Is that it?
That's it. Yeah, we're all good.
All right, take us on out of here then.
Sure thing. I was waiting for you. Sorry. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Please make sure you guys like this video on YouTube and drop us a comment down below. And if you want to become a part of the show, make sure you check the links down below to follow us on Discord so you guys can ask your questions there. I don't know. It seems pretty dope. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in there, but we're all interacting. We're having fun. So join us over there. Follow the podcast at Mark Bell's at MB Power Project on TikTok, Twitter, and what's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. Sorry, we just changed them up. And my Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
Join the Discord, join the Reddit, and if you're here, go to the Clips channel and subscribe to that because we got a lot of smaller clips coming out there. But Nsima Inyang on Instagram, YouTube at Nsima Inyang, on TikTok and Twitter. Nick, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Nick Bear Fitness. YouTube, if you search Nick Bear, a bunch of running videos should pop up. Podcast is the Bear Performance Podcast.
It's a great podcast too.
And your supplement company?
Supplement company is bpnsups.com. It's Bear Performance Nutrition.
Where did you get that amazing shirt? That's beautiful.
I do
Run
love this
through
shirt.
it?
I will tell you,
Came out of nowhere.
I don't know what this material is, but it is silky and it is comfortable. I like it.
Yeah, we were not allowed to tell you about what that is, that material.
I like it.
Top secret. Yeah, we just threw together a run through it shirt. I figured, he's out there running pretty fucking far, so I don't know. Anyway, I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.